now we come to the actual production of a live show. Up to this point, we have talked about configuring many of the modules and inputs getting ready for a production. In this section, we will cover basic switching techniques, using transitions, using the downstream keyers, fade to black, use of the effects row, recording, streaming, and grabbing images. Now, let's do a quick review of the interface. Along the top of the interface, you have a multi-viewer showing you the external feeds and the internal media players. It also shows a big preview and program monitor. Program is what is being broadcast, streamed, and recorded. This is what the audience sees. The preview monitor shows you what is currently selected on preview, and this is what will go out live if you do a cut, fade, or transition. Below the multi-viewer is the live control area. This consists of the program, preview, and effects rows, the T-bar and transition controls, and the transition effects selection and controls for the background layer and the two downstream keyers, or DSKs. Below that is the tabbed interface for access to the media players, the audio mixer, and the virtual input setups. The 3 rows of buttons on the switcher are called buses. The program bus is the most important, as whatever is selected on this bus is what's going out live. It is possible to directly select channels on program bus and cut to them. Even though this is possible, it's not recommended. For instance, switching directly to a virtual input is risky, as there is no monitor for it on the multi-viewer, so you would be bringing it up without seeing it first. The only way to see a virtual input before taking it live or transitioning to it is to put it on the preview bus. Select V3 on preview. Once selected on the preview bus, the input is visible in the preview monitor. Now you can see it before switching to it. To cut to what is on preview, hit the Take button next to the T-bar. This is also the Enter button on your keyboard. Notice that Program and Preview have switched places. Now select V4 on Preview and take to that. That is the basis of all switching, previewing inputs and switching to them. There are a few ways of putting something on preview. You can click on the input on the preview bus with the mouse. There are keyboard shortcuts for all 3 bus rows. The F keys along the top control the program bus. There are 14 channels on the switcher and only 12 F keys. To get the last 2, hold down Shift, and F1 then selects V3, and Shift F2 selects V4. The number keys under the F keys work the same way, but they control the preview bus. Holding down Alt and using the number keys controls the effects bus. You can also put something on preview interactively from the multi-viewer. With the mouse, single-click on an input monitor. That input is sent to preview. Notice the green highlight denoting preview. Click on it a second time and send it to program with a cut. Notice the red highlight denoting program. That's easy enough, but what about transitions? If you look on the right side of the live control section, you will see the transition area. There are 3 banks of transitions here. Let's start out on the background controls. The background layer is whatever is happening on preview and program and any transitions being used to go between them. It is considered the bottom layer under the downstream keyers. Select an input on preview. In the background transition controls, select Fade. Now hit the Auto button under Take next to the T-bar. Program will fade to preview. Next to the fade in the background transition control area are more transitions available for use. Click on several of these and hit Auto. Auto is also run by the space bar on your keyboard. You can control the speed of the transition with these presets, or left-click on the speed number and either scrub or type in a custom speed. You can change any transition in the bank except fade. Fade is always the first transition. 95% of TV is cuts and a few fades. Use transitions wisely. To change an effect, click on it and then click on this gear. Use the pop-up and select Browse, and now you have a selection of categories with transitions inside of them. Click on the Trajectories category to see the transitions. Now click on Fly in B to select it and hit OK. If you hit the gear again, notice you can change the direction of the effect or set it to ping pong. Ping pong means it changes direction each time it runs. This is done automatically for any transition in a DSK or an overlay. These settings are per effect, so each transition can have its own settings. The T-bar also works for manually running transitions and fades. Sometimes it's nice to be able to do a halfway dissolve and hold it for an effect, like a waving flag over a field during a sporting event. The T-bar is perfect for this. Select Fade as the transition and pull the T-bar halfway and stop. When ready, either push the T-bar up or complete the transition by pulling it all the way forward, or just hit the space bar to complete the effect. Try this exercise. Start on an input and cut to another, then fade to another, then transition to another, select a new transition and auto back to a different input, then fade back to the original input. Now you're running a more complex production with cuts, fades, and transitions all on the background layer. Just above the background transition controls are the two downstream keyers. These DSKs allow you to create overlays on top of the background. As you look at the interface, you see the order of the layers. Background is on the bottom, DSK1 is on top of that, and DSK2 is on top of both of them. Let's set up some graphics in Graphics 1 and Graphics 2 to work with. Load up the New Tek logo with Alpha Channel in Graphics 2 and the TriCaster logo in Graphics 1. Each DSK can use any input coming into the TriCaster as a source. Use this pop-up to select the source for DSK1. Let's select Graphics 2 as the source, which is where the New Tek logo is. Now let's set Graphics 1 for DSK2. This will be the TriCaster logo. Each DSK has a take and an auto button with a selection of transitions. Hit Take on DSK1. You see the New Tek logo. Hit Take on DSK2. Now the TriCaster logo is right on top. Notice the layers. DSK2 is on top, then DSK1 is under that, then the background is under both of those. You have the ability to scale and position both DSKs. At the end of each transition bank, there are double arrow crosshairs. These are the positioners for the DSKs. Click on the positioner for DSK2. Notice the graphic appears on preview. This happens even if the DSK is not on. Hit Take on both of the DSKs to turn them off. Now click on the positioner for DSK2 again. By clicking and dragging on the magnifying glass, you can scale the DSK. And by clicking and dragging on the crosshairs, you can position it. Scale is locked, as scaling on one axis would distort the image, but you can do it by unlocking this constraint here. You can also click and drag on just X or Y in the positioner for moving just left or right, or just up or down. Position the DSK in the upper left corner. Close the positioner and the DSK on preview disappears. Hit Auto for DSK2 and the graphic fades up right where you placed it on preview. Being able to set up graphics on preview before you take them live allows you to preview the final shot while you're live but not affect program out. Let's choose a transition in the DSK2 transition bank, other than fade. Hit Auto. Hit Auto again. See how it automatically ping-pongs, running in one direction the first time and the opposite direction the next time. Try running a few effects to get the feel for it. Now, set up DSK1 in the same way. Open the positioner and scale and position it in the lower right-hand corner. Try out a few transitions and find one that you like. Choose a different transition on DSK2. Now you can fly each overlay in by themselves with their own effects. There is a keyboard shortcut to Auto DSK1. It is the F key. This is like hitting the Auto button for DSK1. The keyboard shortcut for Auto for DSK2 is Shift F. But this means you can't hit both of those keyboard shortcuts at the same time. One way to bring on both DSKs together is to hit the F key and click on the Auto for DSK2 at the same time. Another nice technique to use is one effect to bring the DSK on and the opposite effect to take it off. This effect brings in the graphic from the left. Running it flies it in, and running it again flies it off to the left. This effect does the same thing, but from the right. Use one effect to fly it on, and then change to the other effect before flying it off. There are also a variety of soft edge transitions that work well with DSKs. I am going to choose a title template in Graphics 2. I will turn off the positioner for this title. To do this, open the positioner and hit Reset, then close the positioner. Let's choose a nice soft edge wipe. Click on the transition you wish to replace and click the gear. Then select Browse. Go to the Edge category. You see at the bottom there are soft edge transitions. Choose L to R with S in parentheses, which stands for left to right soft edge. Now hit Auto on DSK1. Try out lots of transitions to find your favorite way to reveal and hide graphics. The DSKs in the TriCaster can use any external input or media player as a source. With video coming into input 4, place camera 4 on preview and program. Let's select the DDR as the source for DSK1. We will load a video clip of a motion graphic with alpha or transparency. This will be a moving video overlay on top of the background. You see this a lot on TV. Make sure the DDR is not in loop mode. Make sure that single is on and autoplay is on. Single sets the DDR to only play the selected clip. Autoplay will automatically start the DDR when it is selected on program out or when it is used in a DSK and that DSK is activated. Make sure the motion graphic is the cued clip in the DDR with the yellow highlight on it. If it's not, single click on it. Since the DDR is set to autoplay, with the DDR selected in DSK1, hitting Take or Auto on DSK1 will automatically play the DDR and start the clip. So let's hit Take on DSK1. Now we see full motion graphics superimposed on the background. This particular graphic ends by fading out itself, but you could also use a transition to fly it off. You can even use a green screen talent shot to put talent over the background as an overlay. scale and position them anywhere you want, and fly them on and off the screen. Now, each media player has a set of controls to help you get the most out of the player during a live show. Let's start by looking at the DDR. At the bottom of the DDR interface, you have stop and play buttons. The buttons on either side of these are go to previous and go to next clip buttons. These can be used to select a clip in a playlist. This does change the output of the DDR to whatever clip is selected, so don't do this while the DDR is on program out. Next, there's a loop control. Now, if the single button is on, this will loop the selected clip only. If the single button is off, it will loop the whole playlist over and over again. Now, if loop is turned off, with the single button on, the DDR will play only the selected clip and stop on the last frame of that clip. If single is turned off, the DDR will play through all of the clips in the list, starting with the currently queued clip. Autoplay will automate the process of using the DDR or any media player. If autoplay is off and you transition to the DDR, you see a still frame of the first frame of the selected video clip. If autoplay is on and you transition to a DDR, it will start playing before transitioning to program out. Now, if you let it continue to play, at the end of the clip, it will transition back to whatever is on preview with whatever transition is currently selected, and once the DDR is off program out, it will queue up the next clip for playback. To play the next clip, simply transition back to the DDR. There's also a speed control. This will control the speed of the DDR playback, but this is not true slow motion. To get smooth playback of slow motion video, we recommend a New Tek 3-Play. Now, in the DDR, you can also edit the in and out point of a clip. Each clip has handles on the left and right sides of the scrub bar. Moving these handles sets the in and out points. With the DDR on preview, you can see where the in and out of the clip are being set. This allows for large clips to be brought in and chopped into smaller clips right in the DDR. You can scrub the clip using the scrub bar. The scrub bar, by default, will change color. It is blue when there is more than 10 seconds of video left. It turns yellow when there's less than 10 seconds of video, and red when there's less than 5 seconds of video. This is a nice visual cue to the fact that your clip is about to end and you're going to be going back to another input. The counter by default is set to countdown. When a clip is selected, you see the duration. As the clip plays, this number counts down to 0 at the end of the clip. This also holds true for the entire playlist if single is turned off. With single on, I get the duration of each clip. With single off, I get the duration of the playlist. By right-clicking on the numbers, you can make it count up instead of count down. You can turn off the warning colors on the scrub bar, or turn off playlist duration so you only ever see clip duration. There are also controls available for each clip by right-clicking on those clips in the DDR. These controls include cut, copy, paste, remove, and clone. There is a display name option which will change the name of the clip displayed in the DDR. It will not affect the actual name of the clip on the hard drive. There is also a control for that clip's audio level, including mute. This is very handy as you can set audio levels on a clip-by-clip basis, meaning less audio mixing during the show. You can also remove a clip from the DDR by selecting it and hitting the delete key on the keyboard. This only removes the clip from the DDR. It does not affect the clip on the hard drive. The same goes for the remove option on the context menu. So in a live production, let's say I want to play one clip and come back to my live talent. Go to the DDR and select the clip. Turn on single and autoplay. Make sure loop is off and speed is 100. With the live talent on program, select the DDR on preview. Choose a background transition and hit auto. The clip plays and transitions to program. When the clip is done, it transitions back to whatever is on preview with whatever transition is selected for the background. Let's try transitioning to the DDR and it plays. While it's playing, select a new input on preview and select a new transition in the background. When the clip is finished, you are transitioned to the new input with the new transition. During a live production, you may not want the tabs to follow what is selected on preview, as this may switch you away from the DDR during playback. To turn this behavior off, go to this gear and uncheck everything. Remember, in this mode, you will need to manually select a virtual input setup tab to modify that input during a production. These controls work the same for both of the graphics players. Autoplay with single can play a still for a select duration, or with single turned off, you can play slideshows. Right-clicking on a still or a title template also gives you options, including cut, copy, paste, remove, clone, display name, and duration. You can also set the duration of multiple images at once. Multi-select some stills by left-clicking and dragging a box around a few of them. Now right-click on one of them and select duration. Type in 10.00 and hit enter. Notice clips are now 10 seconds. One last thing to be aware of with autoplay and the media players. Let's say you're on V1 using a virtual set. On that virtual set, you have DDR set up on input B row for the on-screen monitor. The DDR is not playing yet, so it is a still of the first frame of the video clip. Autoplay is on for the DDR. When you transition to the DDR, it will not play. Why? Because it was already on screen within the virtual set. Switching it to program kept it on program, so no change occurred as far as autoplay is concerned. Another example is when I am on graphic 1 on program, and on preview I have V1 with a virtual set with the DDR feeding the on-screen monitor. The DDR has autoplay on, and when you transition to V1, the DDR plays, because we have just put the DDR on program out, even though it is inside of a virtual set. So whether you are switching to the DDR or a virtual input with the DDR used within it, it's the same to autoplay. If the player is on the screen as part of any input, it is considered to already be on program out, and autoplay works accordingly. There is a button on the switcher next to the T-bar labeled FTB. This stands for Fade to Black. Clicking this button will fade all video layers, including DSKs, to black. It also fades all audio to nothing. This is a great way to start or end your production. The top row of buttons on the switcher is the effects row. The effects row can be used in two places. The first is in a virtual input. Notice that at the end of each row in the virtual input switcher setup, there is a button for the effects row. When the button is selected, it will use whatever is selected on the effects row as the source. For example, if you set the input B row, which feeds the on-set monitor, to the effects row, you can now control what is on that monitor and not have to be in that virtual input setup tab. You can change out graphics, videos from the DDR, or live inputs all from the effects row. This is a great way to change what is on the on-screen monitor for a virtual input for multiple sets at the same time. Simply set input B for each of those sets to the effects row. Then changing the effects row changes what's on all of the on-screen monitors at the same time. One caveat is that you can only cut between these inputs on the effects row. There are no transitions. Now, another way to use the effects row is as a secondary output. From the output configuration panel, you can select effects as the output for the secondary multi-view monitor. When set to effects, whatever is selected on effects row will go out the secondary monitor output. This is great to feed side screens with graphics or PowerPoint or other video other than what's coming out of program out. It allows two separate switched outputs from one TriCaster. Again, the effects row is cuts-only switching. Now, during a production, to start recording, hit the record button. You'll see it highlight, and you'll see the counter numbers will start to roll. To stop recording, hit the record button again. Same thing for streaming and the stream button. Images can be grabbed and sent to the Graphics 2 player with this button. Setups for all these features are accessed with the gear next to the button, and this process is covered in the streaming and recording module setup sections. Another note is the user guides for the TriCaster are accessible from the live desktop. To the left of the small X in the upper right-hand corner is another button. Clicking on this reveals QR codes, which are links to the user guides. Use any smart device with a code scanner to scan these QR codes, and the guides appear on the smart device. When the production is over, you can exit the live desktop by clicking on the small X in the upper right-hand corner and choose Exit. This puts you on the Sessions page for that session. Click on Manage. From here, you can back up the session. Remember, if you used any content from another session or browsed and used content that was not imported into the session, choose Import and Backup so that all content is backed up with your session. This will not only create a zip file of the backed up session, which is what you will use to restore the session, but it also creates a folder containing all of the content used in that session. To browse the files recorded by the TriCaster during the session, click on the Clips button. You will see folders for import, capture, and save streams. All full-resolution video recordings are in the Capture folder, and all archived streams are in the Save Streams folder. So the basic setup for our show here is we do have 3 green screen inputs coming in. As you can see, Live Mat is turned on these 3 inputs. We also have crop turned on. You can see the green and blue light. Now, 2 of these green screen inputs are shot horizontally. You can see they're flipped on their side. The camera's actually rotated 90 degrees. And it's shot in instead of a 16:9, it's shot in 9:16. And there is a virtual set in the TriCaster that will accommodate that. It's the Nightly Show set. So down here in virtual input number 1, we've loaded up Nightly Show B. And Nightly Show B allows you to use your B monitor in the background just like all of the other virtual sets. Nightly Show A is a little bit different. That will be covered in a different video. But for this shot, we do have 2 different types of standing shots. We have left standing vertical and left standing. Now, a left standing shot will work with a standard straight up and down shot. The left standing vertical will work with these horizontal shots. This does give you the ability to work with a little bit of a smaller green screen. You don't have to have a head-to-toe green screen that's really wide and back the camera up. You can get the camera in closer. Gives you a little bit better resolution as well. So it's a nice technique to use with the Nightly Show set inside of TriCaster 40. So we have our 3 shots coming in, and what we're doing with those shots is virtual input number 1, we have Rex in a standing shot, and virtual input number 2, we have me seated behind the desk, and in virtual input number 3, we have Kiki, and she's got her own standing shot as well. Now, virtual inputs 2 and 3 both have on-screen monitors, and we're using input number 4 to feed those monitors. So it's just a motion graphic coming in on input 4, and we're using that to feed the 2 monitors inside of our 2 virtual inputs. Now we do have 2 network inputs as well. We're not going to use them, but you could use them if you wanted to. You could bring up a website or anything in any of these monitors. In here inside of Kiki's monitor, we can just select it on the B row, and you now have that network input coming in on her internal monitor. But again, we're just going to go ahead and feed it with this graphic from input 4 for now. So those are the 3 sets we're going to use. We also have inside of the digital disc recorder a New Tek logo set up to end the show. Inside of graphics 1, we have our music bed, and that music bed is going to run underneath the entire production for us. And we're going to also use graphics 2. We have all of our titles set up, and there are titles set up for the 3 of us. There are titles set up for Rex, for myself, and then one for Kiki. And they're set up in the order that we're going to use them in the show. And a cool technique that we're using here is we're using single and autoplay to advance these titles as we use them. So we don't have to worry about queuing up our titles. They're automatically going to queue up. So each time we display a title, it'll bring up the first title that's selected. And then when we remove that title, it advances to the next one for us automatically. Bring it up again, it's the next title, take it out, bring it up again, it's the next title. And so this automatically advances all of our graphics for us, and we don't have to worry about that during the live show. And those are the order that we're going to appear in the show. It's going to be Rex, and then myself, and then Kiki. Now, we're going to go ahead and start the music playing back, and we're going to start the show from fade to black. So let's fade everything out with fade to black. That fades the music and our video. And at this point, we're ready to start the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to New Tek. You know, it was only a matter of time before audiences around the world demanded higher production value. But this meant adding more components, complexity, and cost to your production system. Well, all that's about to change, because now we'd like to introduce you to the ultimate in live multi-camera production.
New Tek TriCaster has revolutionized the world of live production and web streaming with capabilities like multi-channel video switching, audio mixing, media players, graphics, and advanced special effects. It includes a complete virtual set system, multi-channel video recording, and live web streaming, all in a compact and portable production system.
But now, New Tek brings you the ultimate in live multi-camera production, combining all of these features with an advanced special effects system, automation, multi-channel video recording, social media publishing, and an enhanced virtual set system. Just plug in cameras and an internet connection, and you are on the air with a high-quality network-style production.
We'll start by starting the zoom, remove fade to black, bring up DSK2 with Rex's lower third, bring up DSK1 with the over-the-shoulder of the motion graphic coming in on input 4. Then we'll go ahead and remove DSK2 and 1, and V2 on preview, start the zoom on V2 before we switch to it, and then transition to V2, bring in the DSK2 with my lower third. It automatically adjusted to my graphic. Go ahead and remove my graphic. And V3 on preview, ready to start the motion on V3 before the transition. So then we start the motion on V3 and then transition to it. We bring up the DSK2 again, which now has Kiki's title in it. We go ahead and remove DSK2. Now we want to make sure that the DDR is set with our clip, autoplay, and single are on. We put it on preview. When Kiki's done, we transition to it, which starts that clip playing. We're then going to mute the audio coming in on input 1 and fade out our background music and put a black input on preview. And when that video clip is done, it autoplays to whatever is selected on preview, which was black, which takes us out completely.